let's start here. Maybe I'll just give a bit of an intro why we're doing this and see if some other folks will go and join us. So my name is Paul. I'm one of the co-founders at DIA, and at DIA we're building Oracle. So I'm quite excited all topics around infrastructure, and especially if I have such a cool group of panelists with me. So what we would like to kind of validate from our perspective is infrastructure really a growth driver for an ecosystem, or is this just our perspective as an infrastructure provider that you need this and it's essential? So yeah, with me today I have this amazing group with me here: Osman from Polygon, Ryan from Base, Aditya, IBC. Love to see like this different perspective on ecosystem growth. Shuyao from Linea. So without any further ado, maybe you guys can just kick off with a quick intro, give some background, what brought you to the industry, what makes you stick, and what are you focusing currently on in your role?
Hey guys, can you hear me? No. Hey guys. Hold on. Let's see. Can you hear me?
Shall we switch?
Yeah. Hey guys. This is Osman. I lead infrastructure partnerships at Polygon Labs. What that means is I work with around 200 plus solution providers. These could be infrastructure, middleware, developer tooling providers, and provide strategic, technical, and operational support to these teams so that when they join the Polygon ecosystem, they have a good time, they have developer leads, and they can drive top line. My team also built this thing that we call Polygon Solution Provider Network. The Solution Provider Network is basically a global community of infrastructure providers. And again, the goal here is to give infrastructure providers visibility and get them developer leads at scale. Before joining Polygon Labs, I come from an engineering and management consulting background. So I don't come from a BD or partnerships background, but this is what Polygon Labs needed at the moment. So I just took on and built a team around it and going all the way in the infra space right now.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ryan. I'm the head of DevRel at Base. DevRel at Base is really just developer relations, as is everywhere else. I work with, and my team work with, all the builders in the community, and in order to help make their experience coming into the ecosystem and successful. Background about me: I spent 20 years as a software engineer. Most of my career has just been focused on building internet infrastructure. Built a CDN at one point in my life. That was distributed, spent years helping build out MongoDB, and that was another journey that I went on. So super excited to be here. This space is amazing. It's an amazing turnout as well. So thank you.
Hello. Hello, I'm Aditya. I work on IBC, which is the Inter-Blockchain Communication Protocol, which tries to connect different heterogeneous blockchains together without any trust assumptions in between. I work as a protocol architect, so mostly writing specifications now for the protocol. Before that, I was one of the core engineers that built and shipped the first implementation for the Cosmos ecosystem.
Amazing. Hello? Hello. Hey, it works. Hey guys, my name is Shuyao. The shoe you're wearing, Shuyao. It's easier. I lead global business development at Consensus, which means we cover Infura, we cover MetaMask, and now our new ZK EVM called Linea. So it's not pronounced as Linea, but Linea. So somehow we always got the wrong names. And I've been in the space since 2017, the last bull run. I don't know how many people here are victims, survivor of the 2017 cycle. I think, yeah, we're still here. Been, largely focused in the Ethereum ecosystem, but I was telling the panelists we are actually supporting all the other protocol as well. So we actually, MetaMask supports Solana using MetaMask snaps. We support Cosmos via Cosmos Snap. we have a very intimate relationship with Optimism as well, Arbitrum and etc. So excited to be here. Thank you guys for organizing this. This is vibing really well, I think. Hey guys upstairs. Hey.
Super. I mean, I think you guys have very different backgrounds, but looking, I guess, at similar problems. So when we start off talking about growth enabled through infrastructure, maybe let's take a step back and understand how you look at growth from your different roles. So what are the things you're trying to push to achieve growth from your specific role? Anyone? There's no order.
I'll jump in.
First one.
I forgot to give my background story in crypto. I started on my Bitcoin journey in 2012. It was related to the 2008, 2009 kind of economic fallout, and kind of was disillusioned with the system. So that's my crypto journey, and then helped in different roles build a number of protocols along the way in infrastructure companies in a different position. But for growth for us and for my role at Base is really just about bringing more developers into the ecosystem, and not just like developers from other projects. Like that's awesome and that's great as well. But we're trying to figure out how do we bring more and more people into the on-chain environment, into the crypto ecosystem. So it's definitely a huge challenge. So one of the ways that we tackle this is we actually have something called Base Bootcamp and Base Camp, which is online Solidity training, which enables people to learn and to develop those skill sets in order to transition from that Web 2 into the Web 3 into the on-chain ecosystem economy. So that's going on well. It's a kind of a self-serve program if you go through Base Camp. If you go through Base Bootcamp, we're kicking off our first cohort. We kicked it off last week, and it's roughly an 11-week program, and we mentor the developers who are looking to transition. We've been really surprised at the number of people that have moved into it, and it's not just like people in traditional Web 2, it's people that are working for dapps and protocols that are on the front end side that don't have a lot of experience on the back end and on the blockchain side. And so that's been really refreshing to see. But yeah, the core for us is developers, not to really ape Steve Ballmer in any way, but that's what we're looking at doing.
Anyone wants to comment and provide the perspective, Osman?
Can you hear me? Yeah. My focus is a tiny bit. That focus, of course, very important, and I guess most important thing is bringing in developers. I lead infrastructure partnerships, so the focus is more on the B2B side of blockchain. So the big challenge that we see talking with many solution providers like DIA and hundreds of others is when they join Polygon ecosystem, when they start supporting Polygon ecosystem, what happens next? How do they reach developers? How do they, start driving revenue? Like what's the path? And this is a very difficult problem to solve because Polygon ecosystem is huge and changing constantly. One day we're focused on zk-AVM, next day we're launching the app chain stack. So it's a difficult problem to solve. So for that reason, we built the solution provider network. DIA is a part of it. I don't want to promote it necessarily too much, but it's basically where all these solution providers essentially register, and it's a way for it's kind of like a first step for solution providers to say, hey, okay, now I'm a part of the Polygon solution provider network, and this way developers can see me and start reaching out to me. So this is something specific that we're doing as a growth initiative with respect to infrastructure partnerships.
I can say that I have a slightly different perspective on this as a developer. Of course, we have a product team at IBC that is very focused on bringing in new developers into the ecosystem. My role is not so consumer-facing, so to speak. So from my role, I'm much more interested in with the specifications I write and with the protocols we write, how do we make sure that we give a platform for developers who are already brought in by our product team to experiment with the least amount of inertia possible? So we make sure that the documentation is super clear, that we have our interfaces all set up so that people can just start building as quickly as possible. We want to make sure, I'm in my happy place when most of the IBC development is happening outside of our team by different teams that I may never even have heard of, right? And that's starting to happen right now with our introduction of IBC applications that are pretty easy to write, and we've even created middleware that people can take already built IBC applications and just customize it and make small tweaks. So trying to reduce the inertia for people to get started on IBC development has been really crucial for bringing more developers in.
I think my role is my role is slightly different. So I'm gonna conjure up the famous F word, flywheel. So the way we conceptualize growth is, okay, you have initial users might come to crypto because they were making money, from Doge or whatsoever, but then they have to find other things to do. But developers build these other things. So you want to incentivize developers to build more. And as you have more things to do, you have more users, and you get more users, and then, more developers, abandon AI and come back to crypto. And so that's the flywheel we want to, we want to encourage, and that's where we think growth comes from. So that's one part of the answer. The second one is, and this is just me talking, right? I'm not a developer, so I think I'm the only one here who can't code. And I look at code, I go to sleep. I do think we have to find a way to encourage people like me to think like developers or create in some ways in the crypto world. So I'm super excited about that. For us to do that, you have to abstract the infrastructure away. You can't teach someone like me, I don't know which oracle to choose, right? It's too much. So I think for us, it's the flywheel, and then you have to simplify the tooling so everybody can create something.
I think it's fair to summarize, or please correct me, that everybody is really trying to equip the builders, developers with the right tooling and with the right documentation and coordination. So I'm curious, how do you look now in transitioning to infrastructure as a growth driver? What type of infrastructure should be a common good and be a given and be provided from the protocol, or shouldn't it be? Should it be basically, if infrastructure is needed, market should solve it, dapp developers will pay for it? What's your experience of common good infrastructure being a growth driver, if you ever considered having it? I guess RPCs, block explorers, that's like a given or not? So how do you guys look at that?
I can give it a shot. When we were launching Polygon zk-AVM back in March, this was a question that was coming up, and I guess one point that I got lucky was our founder team already had experience launching another successful chain, maybe one of the most successful, POS. So without even me asking, sat down, brought in our DeFi team, our enterprise team, various teams. And the first topic was, okay, we're launching a chain. Which infrastructure providers should be there from the get-go, from day zero? And we already we identified 8 different categories, which include RPC providers, oracles, bridges, on-ramps, and a few other competencies. And we did this pre-launch strategy where you guys were a part of it as well. We spoke with various teams and connected them with our solutions engineering team and made sure that the most table stakes infra was there on day zero. And we actually launched a chain with I think around 50 solution providers. And I think we reached 20 million TVL pretty quickly. Now it stayed there for a long time because, of course, infrastructure for me is common good infrastructure is kind of binary. Like, you need to have that. And then there are many other components, like Shu is mentioning. So because we had that binary checkbox there, we were able to reach a considerable TVL. So this is something that we did specifically for common good.
maybe just a follow-up and curious on all your perspective here, but who should pay for it? Is it like the dApp developer, you guys? Probably not, right? But the end users. I'm just curious, like, should be there incentives for these common good infrastructure providers, or should be solved by the dApps deciding to get, I guess, the most competitive product for a price, and they need to figure it out?
Yeah, I guess I'll jump in and then touch on that in a second. When we launched Base, we don't have a token, no plans to release a token. So we had to beg, borrow, and like really just go out there and really kind of sell and like convince people that this is going to be real and that this is going to be something. And we're grateful for like DIA who came on early and other providers that because we weren't able to incentivize them with a token to support Base. But one thing that we're doing right now in order to help developers on chain in terms of providing infrastructure is we released a paymaster on our testnet, Sefolia and Gorley recently, that isn't giving any developer who has a ERC 4337 wallet, smart contract wallet, 1 ETH per week in order to actually deploy and test on chain, so like don't have to go and like do the faucet shuffle every single day, which has been good. And recently we announced that we are bringing that to mainnet as well. And what we're trying to do is trying to provide a certain number of smart contract deployments to the mainnet in a subsidized manner that we're going to enable as long as they're deployed through a smart contract wallet. And so this week we have a sample dApp. You can paste your smart contract into the dApp and it'll deploy it on chain once we allow the smart contract wallet address. So we're hoping to provide this type of infrastructure that enable more developers and builders to get their apps on chain. And not just on testnet. And so during the hackathon this weekend, the ETH Global Hackathon, will be allow listing addresses for those smart contract deployments, but we'll also be supplementing their network fees for up to roughly $50 worth of ETH. So this is how we're trying to help the builders who may not have the ETH. Not everybody has $8 worth of ETH to deploy a smart contract or more or less. And so we want to see this open up to not just the people with the assets to deploy it, but we want to bring more and more on chain. And we're looking at ways that we can help subsidize dApps in the future. So if you have a protocol, come talk to me afterwards. We don't know how this is going to look. We don't know how it's going to feel. We're trying to get feedback and we're trying to learn from everyone. So please talk to me. Thanks.
Yeah, I think subsidizing early users is really crucial. With IBC, we did the same. Like, we have these infrastructure operators called relayers that are necessary to move packets from one chain to the other. And at the moment, users don't pay for them, right? So it's the actual chains, and neither do we. It's actually the chains themselves that are giving grants out to these relay operators to then relay packets for them. And I think that's been a really crucial part for early adoption, because if you're creating that friction at the very start to say, okay, as a user, in order to move my tokens from one chain to the other, I have to pay this additional fee to a relayer, I think that can really slow growth in the beginning. So I think it was a really good decision by the ecosystem to start out by just making things free, and then later on we build in protocol incentivization and figure out how to do these things in protocol. But at the start, I think you just want to get as many users using your technology as possible.
I think from our perspective, I think it's still largely an economic activity. I remember when Gavin from Base reached out to me asking for inferior support. Obviously, like, there's no...
When inferior.
And we had to make a decision. It's like freaking expensive to stand up for a new chain, and it's going to upgrade, and then what if no one uses it? Like, right now we have to sunset some of the EVM chains that we added in the last bull market and have to go apologize to everyone. Like, I'm sorry, just like, we don't have money to support you, right? So I think, like, it sounds really rosy to say support common goods and infrastructure and bring in builders, but it's a very black and white situation sometimes. You have to take money out of your treasury. So what I think is important for infrastructure. For example, now, like if I, not wearing my Infura hat, I wear my Linea hat. What I want to do is, first of all, we never discriminate against different infrastructure. We welcome everyone. Second one is we don't have token. We also don't have a lot of money to spare. What we're trying to do is trying to be this magician, connect people who might have synergy with each other, so that they might can save some money from here and from there. So it requires a lot more BD dedicated connecting with different ecosystem players. The third one is what Aditya actually probably alluded to. We're doing this fees rebate with some protocols to get them initially started without burning too much cash. And also it wouldn't be fair, right, if you favor one over the other. So these are the three ways we try to support. But I think we should think about infrastructure also as market structure competitive, right? The one that genuinely has good products, like you guys, will have people willingness to pay and eventually have product market fit and survive.
Yeah, that's. I think that's what we're also seeing. That there's just a limited set of common goods which can sustainably be retained for a longer period of time, and where people actually can rely on to have these also in the future accessible. You were mentioning competition, so like best product should win and make it through the market. Speaking of competition, I think it seems like you all agree on what's like the foundational needs builders have and how to connect them, how to orchestrate and bring people together. But so moving away a bit from infrastructure needs, I'd be super curious to understand and hopefully get an honest answer here. You're somehow like in a competitive and also collaborative environment here. I think I just would like to understand how do you try to find sounds a bit generic, but a USP for the product, right? Like the tech stack is at a very high level, so I could build a lending market probably on Linea as well as in Polygon, and I mean, so I'd be curious to understand what are the like differentiation you try to carve out, and how does competition and collaboration look now?
Oh, that's sticky. I'll jump in with that one.
Thanks.
So at Base, we view Base as a bridge, not an island. And what that really means is that what we're trying to do with Base, in addition to bringing new use cases on chain, is we want to take and we're working to enable Coinbase to bring their applications on chain. So there's the 110 million verified users, 15,000 institutional clients, and we want to bring those on chain more and more. And so we're starting to see a number of Coinbase products that are being moved into on chain. And so that's kind of like ground zero for what we plan on doing. But we believe that once those users get on chain, we think that they'll start exploring out into other ecosystems. So we think that they'll start going into places like Zora to collect artwork, and we think that they'll go into other chains that have very kind of specific niche products, as well as just once they're more comfortable going to different environments. And we think, the messaging providers are building and laying that infrastructure down so that this cross-chain kind of evaporates and becomes more transparent over time. So we're not viewing other chains as competition. This is a huge pie. We're rebuilding the global financial system, and that's not going to it's not going to live on one chain. It's going to live on many different chains. And the key is just making sure that the experience and the UX between those networks is as solid as possible.
I can jump in second. I think, in fact, I often refer some of potential dapps to the other chains. I've done Polygon, I've done Base, based on their needs. Sometimes, like as Linea, we can't accommodate hey Robert, we can't accommodate. So I've said to your ways before. So, sorry, I lost my train of thought, but I'll come back. I think the way we think about ourselves as Linea, we decided to put so much money in it wasn't because we're going to make money out of this protocol, because we believe Ethereum needs more diverse infrastructure, diverse design of layer 2s. So our ZK EVM is designed very differently from the Polygon stack, also different from Scroll and ZK Sync. So to make the entire Ethereum protocol resilient was our reason number one. That's why we're there. And the second one is we think about Linea as like a launch pad for some dapps. So you start from Linea and then you go somewhere else, right? I think Base has just tremendous, like, how to say, distribution to real people. And that is so powerful. And I think all of us should leverage that. Rather than like, oh, keeping people at MetaMask, we should not, right? So we're probably going to list Base as one of the popular network so that users can get on Base, get on chain more easily. So I don't view any of what we're doing here as competition because there's just nothing to compete against with each other. But we do want to be a reliable launch pad for dapps before they branch out to the cross-chain world. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, so competition for us is a pretty tricky concept because we don't actually run a chain. We don't have a token. We have no means of value capture. We're a open source protocol that anyone could adopt. But it still matters to us that people adopt the standards that we've tried to put forward rather than everyone adopting their own custom, unique interoperability protocol and splintering the whole network of blockchains, because then it's not an interoperability protocol, right? There are just these different silos. So for us, we're trying to push the whole ecosystem of blockchains to go in the direction that we've chosen, which is a single standard of message semantics that really pushes forward no value capture in the interoperability protocol itself, and no trust assumptions beyond the chains that you're talking to. So if we look at the space of interoperability protocols right now, there's really a spectrum of design solutions. There's this one side, which is prioritizing speed of deployment, which we see with like centralized bridges where you just have two smart contracts on either end, a server in the middle with a private key, and it just signs and moves things forward. And we've really picked the other end of that spectrum where, no, we're going to verify everything on chain. We're going to keep things as decentralized as possible. And that's much more slower to adopt, right? Because it requires a lot more on-chain implementation. So the challenge for us is trying to bridge that gap between developers and users that want something now and as quickly as possible, and our own ethos of trying to keep things, ideologically pure in this decentralized ethos. So the thing that we've realized is we actually need to kind of come to a compromise and say, okay, we'll try and provide this solution for you as quickly as possible, keeping our message semantics, and make sure that there's an upgrade path for you to get to that fully decentralized solution that we really want everyone to move towards. And that's the way we're trying to handle the competition we're getting from these centralized bridges.
I guess finally, on our side, all great points. I think like when an outsider may think ecosystems are kind of fungible, you can build your application in any like ecosystem and it will work the same way. So that's a very valid perspective. I think like being at Polygon and in the weeds of things with developers, what differentiates Polygon ecosystem, I think, is a few things. One is the core contributing team is Polygon Labs. I just can't deny the fact that the experience and specialization of Polygon Labs is a differentiator. On the experience front, like I said, one of the biggest chains generating over 2 million transactions a day, 500K Matic a day, 70K Matic a day. So there's that experience that comes when we're approaching any product that we launch. So for builders, I think that's a good value proposition. Like you can have access. If you actually show that like you're interested, you will get that access, I think. Another thing is like specialization of the team. We have very, I would say on the business side, not even talking about the engineering side, on the business side, very specialized team. Not sure if any other ecosystem has a like small team like mine, infrastructure partnerships. In addition to mine, we have a specific team for DeFi, specific team for NFTs, specific team for entertainment companies, specific team for banks and things like that. So it's a very lean team, but I think specialization matters. So that's one differentiator. I would say the other differentiator, hopefully, that we'll see in the future is, the team is working with the best researchers in the industry to make our token a little bit more utility token. And this is more a benefit for users. So while right now the main utility is staking and gas fees, I think in the future we're working on various other venues, especially with our app chain vision, where users can use their tokens for various things. And I genuinely think that could be a differentiator down the line. But of course, hopefully the pie grows and we don't really steal from each other and we just like pass around developers and users.
I mean, speaking of collaboration, I think cross-chain as a use case has been seen as like a growth driver, but still, when you look at applications, I think it's pretty limited what you see projects actually building across different chains, providing utility and utilizing the benefits one chain might have over another for certain types of products. Do you think cross-chain is something? Probably we'll see it, but how will it be actually implemented? Will it be a coordination among the different protocols you guys discussing? Works like, I mean, for example, Polygon working with Linea together, like identifying certain elements, implementing these use cases, or is it something that should be driven by the dapps, which actually see a value proposition which is unique on two chains and actually utilizing the benefits here?
Yeah, I think I can jump in as someone who's building an interoperability protocol. My perspective on it is that I really do think that this should be a sort of permissionless, dApp-driven approach. I think from our standpoint, we're the ones that are responsible for connecting the chains together, right? So we're building the protocol that says, okay, you can send some data from Cosmos to Polygon or from Cosmos to Ethereum, whatever consensus mechanism you have, whatever state machine you have, you should be able to move whatever message format you want. And then it's up for the dApp developers to decide, okay, what messages do I actually want to send? And we've seen as IBC has grown, like different applications take off. So like when we first launched, it took a while for the first application to really take off, which was Osmosis, which is just a DEX chain for Cosmos where people move their funds in to Osmosis and then they swap on that chain, right? So that was kind of the first use case, probably the most obvious use case for any interoperability protocol is to moving a fungible token transfer, and that's what we saw, and it's still probably the largest use case that we have today. But as IBC has matured and we've added more applications and things have become more powerful on the application level, people have built more interesting applications. So there's Stride on Cosmos, which is a liquid staking protocol. So they actually take your funds from whichever staking chain that you wish, and then they will delegate your stake for you and issue you a liquid staking token. So all of this is a pretty complex protocol that people are building where you move funds from, let's say, the Cosmos Hub to Stride, and then Stride takes that and then delegates it back on Cosmos Hub for you and then issues you some token. Like, this is a very complicated user flow that we didn't really even envision when we had built these base level building blocks, but people have taken those base building blocks and started building their own stuff. So I think really it's going to be driven by the developers and by the users, and the chains themselves will just be supporting this base level platform for sending data around.
Yeah, I'll jump on that. We believe it's going to be a multifaceted approach with Base. Part of the reason we decided to build on the OP stack was the vision of the superchain that came out, which is a series of interconnected L2s as part of the protocol and as part of the network. And Base was obviously the founding member on that. And we believe that it will be both the intermessage. There's always going to be fundamental differences between certain networks that require bridging, but on the superchain, we're really excited to see interoperability, and the steps to get there really in terms of transfers are related to a mission that was put out by the Optimism Foundation, which is ZK rollups on base and on the OP stack. And so the RFP went out, RISC-0 and L1 Labs came in, submitted proposals. That's in the works. I actually yesterday at On-Chain Summit saw demos, which was kind of cool. Well, we saw code, not quite demos, which was exciting. And so we think that technology is kind of the foundational building block, which will enable some of the cross-chain inside of the superchain. But that's really kind of the way we're looking at it. But as I mentioned, there's always going to be certain chains that will not have that interconnectivity and definitely will require other messaging protocols and infrastructure to bridge that gap.
So actually, can I ask you a follow-up to that? I think so. My understanding of Superchain is that it's for other OP rollups to be able to connect to each other because they have this shared architecture, and so they can connect through the superchain. Does you at Base have an interest in also going beyond the OP ecosystem to other ecosystems and have a plan there?
Yeah, absolutely. As I mentioned, the core goal is the bridge on an island concept. So connecting to as many different networks as possible is core to what we believe in. The superchain is a little bit more complicated. It's a set of governance, and so which defines the upgradability. It defines the restricting the ability to censor the network. So there's everything is running in parallel. There's a set of common governance that's decentralized. And then also, has the capability of if somebody violates the law of chains, which is the overriding governance for the superchain, then they can actually the Optimism Collective can actually take and reroute the sequencer and other technology in order to remove that from the network, to remove that censorship from the network. And so it is something exciting. But yes, long story short, we love all chains.
Do you want to comment something?
I don't
Otherwise,
have
happy
anything
to...
insightful to add, so no.
No, let's move on. I doubt that though, but let's maybe cover something to as a closing here, and then I had the privilege here to ask a lot of questions I had in mind, but maybe you guys here in the audience also want to take a stab at it, guys. And but as a closing question here, I'd love to understand what you define as success for you coming up, just kind of I don't know if you want to share your OKRs with me, but I'd love to understand what are you focused on the next 3 months, and what do you want to have achieved in a year? And this from the perspective in your role, but also for the ecosystem. I'd be curious.
I can give that a shot. My question is, do people here, have you guys heard of Polygon CDK? More or less than half. 2 people, 3 people, okay. Yeah, so that's kind of the biggest focus right now. 90% of our focus is there, both on the engineering side and on the business side. We're going almost a little bit too fast on the business side, but I guess it's a good checks and balance for our engineering team. So that's the biggest focus at Polygon Labs right now, ensuring that Polygon CDK stack is adopted by various developers, whether they build app chains or custom blockchains, ecosystem blockchains, whatever it may be. From my perspective, I recently started talking with a lot of roll-up as a service providers. We've been talking with them for a very long time. But now that the CDK tech is kind of going at a good pace, we're working with a lot of these roll-up as a service RaaS providers to essentially get them up to speed with where we are, set realistic expectations, not maybe oversell too much, and essentially get them up to speed. We're creating a Rust community type of thing, so that because we can't really evangelize this just as Polygon Labs, there's no way to do that. And we've seen amazing, interest. Zeev, Michael from Zeev is here, and he's helping us out a lot. So that's a big focus personally for me, getting all these Rust providers up to speed and collaborating with them as much as possible.
I'll jump in. So we just launched a couple months ago, and so really building out the ecosystem, building out the developer ecosystem is what we're laser-like focused on. We're also really focused on how do we continue the growth that we've seen. It's been pretty phenomenal over the last couple of months, and so how do we take and continue that? We launched with On-Chain Summer, which really we feel reinvigorated the L2 space, and the number of transactions that we've seen after On-Chain Summer has continued to go up and to the right at a significant arc. And so that's where we're focused. We are trying to figure out the ecosystem, not having a token. How do we bring builders in? How do we take and help them build their projects? Is something that we're super focused on in the base ecosystem, as well as what we're really out there and really want to do is just bring more things on chain. One of the things we're at a really unique point in time where I kind of relate this to when things started coming online. You could take a novel business idea and you could take and get advantages and scale where anyone, anywhere could actually consume that service when you release that. And we see that's happening now with crypto. The difference here is as things come on chain, it's not just anyone, anywhere can actually take advantage of that application, but they can actually take and interact with value. And that's something that's really exciting. And as a result, we're starting to see things like advocacy come on chain. We're starting to see restaurants come on chain. We're starting to see collaborative art come on chain. Traditional use cases that we hadn't necessarily seen that weren't super tied to, financial products. And so that's what we're really excited about seeing.
Yeah, for us, it's expansion, expansion, expansion. So when IBC launched, it was already out of the gate the interoperability protocol of choice for Cosmos, because if you're building on Cosmos, probably the reason you're building on Cosmos is because of IBC. So we'd already kind of captured that market from the get-go, and so in the next 3 months, we're basically just wrapping up what we want to provide for our Cosmos users. But really, our focus for IBC has always been that it's not something for Cosmos. It's something for all blockchains. And to me, my measure of success is if we see in the coming years a substrate chain talking to an OP rollup using IBC, or like an OP rollup speaking to another OP rollup with IBC. That would be, for us, a measure of success, that it really goes beyond Cosmos and becomes just a standard that's adopted by everyone.
I'll be the boring one, tell you my company's OKR because it's actually relevant. How many people here have got robbed, or scammed, phished? Thank you for your honesty. So our actually success, will look to me, is reduce people's, we call font loss incidents, is to build more security in crypto. If you guys know that most people leave crypto, once you guys scam once, you're leaving our industry forever. You don't win the user back. As a company that has from base layer Linea to middleware inferior to wallet layer, we want to build a bunch of security parameters inside the user's experiences so you don't get scammed and you stay in crypto. So that's what success looked to us.
Cool. Thanks for sharing all those. So anyone here in the audience who wants to ask these guys a question? Then I'm happy that I covered all the interesting topics, I guess. No, guys, thanks so much for joining us here. Really a pleasure, and thank you all for listening in here and spending time with us. There are a ton of cool events out there, so thank you for deciding to spend your time here and with us on this panel. Thanks.
Thanks, Sarah.